So I've talked about it before, but how do you get professional help, and what do you do if you can't afford professional help? I'll have some guidelines to help you out in this video. How's it going, Reinventors? I'm Amelia. This is Reinventing You, the channel where you can be inspired to take your own reinventing journey so that you can live a life of joy, fulfillment, and purpose. I post twice a week, and in another week, we'll begin the month of December, and I'm going to do a Vlogmas series. I'm going to tell you a little bit about that at the end of today's video. I'm glad that you're here. If this is your first time, I invite you to subscribe, and don't forget to click on the bell notification so you'll be notified when I post new videos. Now, before I begin, I have to just say that I don't know why, but I burst a blood vessel in my right eye. That's why I'm wearing glasses. And also, I'm in profile for most of this video, which my husband teasingly suggested that I do, but then I realized, well, why not? A lot of the information that I have here will be on the screen, so you will not see me very often. Now, my cat is trying to get out of the house. He is behind me. Let's see, you can see him. Kind of see him here. There he is. He's scratching. So if you hear that noise, that's what he's doing. Meanwhile, my dog is out there. So how do you get professional help? And when I talk about professional help, I'm going to start with counselor, basically therapist is what I'm talking about. And when I say professional, I mean they've been certified and licensed. So that means they've had the training, they've had the experience, they've had the supervision, and they've been certified by your state. So this is for folks in the United States. It may be a little bit different in your country. Now, there is a national certified board that many people internationally are a part of, and it's called the NBCC, which is the National Board Certified Counselor. Now, that's not the same as a state license. A person can have a state license and be a therapist and make money, all those things, without being part of the NBCC. But the NBCC is a voluntary organization. I'm sure you probably, I don't know for sure, but I'm sure you have to pay some kind of fee. There are things that you have to do to reach that level, but just because somebody is a member of the NBCC doesn't necessarily mean that they are licensed in your state. So that means you're going to have to do some work to investigate. Now, the best thing that you can do is to be recommended, be referred by like a physician or a pastor or another religious professional to somebody who is a licensed therapist. If that person is part of a group, like an office situation where it might be Absalom and Associates, and they are, they have several different kinds of counseling or therapy in that same office, then they are most likely going to be certified. They're going to have license because that's their business. They have to make sure their therapists are fully credentialed. You might also have somebody like a social worker, somebody who would recommend a counselor, or you might go on, if you have health insurance, you may be able to go to a particular therapist who's in your network. And that person is most likely going to be licensed because they're in the network. So you may not have to do quite as much searching for that person. If you decide to use a organization that's online and online only, then most likely the person is going to be licensed. But you're going to have to still do some digging. Whatever you do, if you're referred to somebody, if you decide you want to try out a therapist, the first thing you need to do is contact them, whether by phone or email, and ask for their information about their license. You need their full name, the license number, the state, the city, state, and zip code where it was administered, the date it was approved, and when it expires. A person who is a therapist will give you that information. So, that's really important to know. Then you have to do a little bit of research. Now, I got some of this information from Talkspace.com, which is one of those online places where you can go and you can, hang on one second. my cat while I do my video. Okay. I don't know if this is going to work or not, because this cat is probably going to be crazy and nut in a minute. But anyway, you can also check places like Psychology Today or goodtherapy.org, and they will have a listing of licensed therapists in your state. That doesn't mean if your therapist isn't on that list that they're not legit, because not everybody is on those lists, but there's places that you can check out. If you get to this point, you need to go to the licensing board for your state. You can Google, I think it's license, board, certification, counseling, excuse me, I can get up with my lap. And it may differ from state to state, but make sure where you go has the https and .gov on there, and that way you can look up the person's information, and it should have things to fill out: their license number, their full name, when it was administered, when it expires, all that information. Make sure that they're in good standing. That is, when you get to see the license or the information from your state, it should verify the license, and you make sure the person has not had any kind of disciplinary action, and that will be on that verification form. So that is something to be looking out for. Another possibility, if you're considering a therapist, is you also have to think about, is this person using what kind of therapy? There's two major kinds of therapy. There's cognitive behavioral therapy, and there's psychoanalytic therapy, and those are two different ways therapists help you. Cognitive behavioral therapy is going to be more free form, like the therapist is going to let you just do the talking, and they'll chime in and kind of guide you. And that's the kind of therapy that I've had in my dealings with counselors. There's another kind of therapy, that the psychoanalytic therapy is more like you think of in the movies or with Freud, the concept of Freud, where you lie on a couch and they say, "Tell me about your father," that kind of thing. So even though that's a very simplified version that kind of gives you an idea, it's more structured, more counselor-led. They're going to ask you the questions, and they're going to kind of guide you through the whole process. All right, so that's how when you're looking for a therapist that is a counselor, you go and you say, okay, this is the therapist that I want to go to. They've been recommended, or I've looked them up online. Verify they're licensed by your state. Everything looks good, and you go to see them, and they do one kind of therapy or the other, and you're happy with them. But you might say, well, wait a minute, Amelia, I don't have health insurance, or my health insurance doesn't cover counseling, or I've got to pay for it myself, and I cannot afford it, because a lot of times counselors can be anywhere from $75 to $200 an hour, and that can really add up. It's a big chunk of change. Now, it's important. I'm not saying, it's not throwing away your money, and can you imagine how many times we spend $75 to $200 without even thinking about it, and we have nothing to show for it. If you just cannot do it, and I understand in this day and time with the current economic climate, it is totally possible that that is not for you. I wanted to offer some other things that you can do to get the same kind of therapy. And I have to just kind of put in here before we go any further is, I do not recommend a religious leader as a therapist or counselor. As a pastor myself, I know that I am not trained as a counselor, as a therapist. If somebody came to me and they needed to talk, I would only do it a maximum of 3 times, and then I would refer them to a professional. And this is because, well, really a couple of things. Number one, most religious professionals, whether it is a rabbi or a pastor or other kind of a Buddhist leader, all of those people that are maybe in your spiritual life, and they are kind of guiding you in the spiritual realm, whatever that looks like, or the religious realm, are probably not going to have the experience and the training and the licensing that you really need to make sure you are doing the best for yourself. So I just caution you there. And I have seen so many times where a person goes to a Christian counselor especially, or their pastor, and is misled. Not that I don't feel like people are trying to do evil to other people, but they probably have some kind of religious agenda, and they probably are focusing on particular things that aren't helpful for you. I've seen a lot of situations where there might be some domestic abuse, and the pastor convinces the wife especially, or the other person, to stay with the abuser because it's against their religion to separate or divorce. And it has been, people have just misused that. And that's the other issue, is if somebody is your religious head or director or somehow above you in a spiritual sense, then they can, even without realizing, abuse their power over you. They still have power over you. And it might not happen in therapy. It might happen outside of therapy. It's just not recommended. Now, if you want to go to your pastor or your rabbi and say, I am seeking therapy, can you recommend somebody? Or I just wanted to let you know that I'm seeing a therapist, or maybe my spouse and I are going to therapy. We just want you to be aware. Please pray for us, and that kind of thing. That's one thing. It's different from trying to have that person be your therapist. If you are looking at a therapist, or even if you already have been going to a therapist and you can't afford it, whatever the issue, ask your therapist if they have a sliding scale. A lot of times a therapist will do that. They will say, okay, your health insurance lapsed, or your income is decreased, and they'll ask you some questions and work out a payment plan for you. So that is one possibility. If you can't afford a therapist, you might check with a local university. A lot of universities have a university health clinic option. Ask for their outpatient psychology program. Find out if they have maybe a psychology student who is becoming educated in therapy, and they basically need to have, oh, hello. You want to get up here on the stairs? All right, come on. Come on. There we go. And they may say, hey, we have a program where you can go to somebody who's training, but they might have a small fee you have to pay, or they may not charge you at all. So that is another option. So now we have the scratching, now we have the heavy breathing. But anyway, another option that you can consider is to do group therapy. Now, even in group therapy, the group leader should be certified and have a license in doing a group. But if you are in grief, maybe you've lost your spouse or partner, that's a great place to be. If you are recovering from some kind of addiction, AA, NA, it's not quite exactly therapy, but it can be very helpful. Now, in that respect, it is group-led rather than led by a particular leader, so it's a little bit different, but that can be an option for you. But a lot of times when you're looking for therapy, you're looking for particular answers to particular questions that you have as an individual. If you're looking for a group therapy, you might check community centers like the Y or United Way, which I'll get to in a minute, and even local religious houses may have some kind of group therapy that is in their religious house or their religious building, but is led by a therapist or a group therapist that's licensed. Another possibility is to go online. There are a couple of places. You can check Psychology Today. They will probably have some recommendations, but Talkspace, I got an article from them about this. Check them out. They have some people online. They might be just email kind of therapy, or it could be face-to-face, like over FaceTime or Zoom. Another possibility is called BetterHelp. So go to those websites, and I have those here on the screen where you can check those out. The online therapist will charge anywhere from $45 to $70 a week, and I guess it just depends on their schedule of how often you get to talk to them, or how many emails or text or whatever that you are allowed to do within that time period. Another possibility could be a clinical social worker. Now, you may think of a clinical social worker as somebody who's in the hospital, like if you've ever been there, and the social worker will come by and check on your situation if you're headed home, that kind of thing. But there are clinical social workers who may not have the degree that a licensed therapist have, but they have a licensed clinical social work license, clinical social work license. They may have more years of experience, and they may be, capable of helping you for a lot less. One great resource that we have in every state is United Way, and all you have to do is dial 211. And the United Way does have different nonprofit options for counseling. They even provide financial counseling, and there's other things that they help with, and they are a great agency. It's possible if you are on unemployment, they may have pointed you in the direction of United Way. I don't know, but check out United Way. Call 211, or I think it's also online as United 211 or U211. I can't remember, but just, you can just type in United Way. If you're over 50, and I remember I used to laugh about this when we got these cards in the mail, we started getting them. AARP. My husband and our members, we used to laugh about it, but they have been so helpful. Now, my husband is older than I am, so we've been a member of AARP for some time. You do not know the hundreds, probably thousands of dollars we have saved in terms of our cell phones, in terms of our insurance, in terms of saving for trips. I cannot mention them highly enough. It's $16 a year. I mean, it's even less if you do 2 or 3 years. We do ours every year, $16 a year. And we get all these benefits. It is just awesome. So not only that, but AARP really specializes in helping people over 50 find training and job opportunities. So if it's a career option, you're over 50, AARP is excellent. They also have a local assistance directory to help you find things like counselors and therapists. Now, I've been talking all this time about therapy and therapists and getting somebody who's professional. I just want to mention for a moment about a life coach. Now, there is no overall license for a life coach. A lot of people can claim to be a coach and not have any kind of background or certification. But I always recommend to talk to the person that you're considering going as a coach. Now, a coach is not a therapist. They maybe have some training in therapy, but they are not a therapist. And they are going to work with your present and future self. And I always think of a coach as more of a coach, like you have on a team. You're kind of getting you organizing out there, but you exactly have got to go play the game. A lot of times they may be accredited by the International Coach Federation or the ICF, but they may not be. A lot of times what you can do is ask them, are you accredited by the ICF or another agency? What kind of training have you had? What kind of experience have you had? Do you have any referrals? Those things are the best things to do when it comes to a coach. Don't just take their word for it or their advertisement or what's online, but dig a little bit deeper and find out some more. This has been an incredibly long but incredibly important video. I hope this has been helpful for you. In the comments below, tell me what has been the best thing that I have said in this video. In the meantime, get ready for Vlogmas. It starts December 1st. It goes through December 25th. And this year, I'm going to be giving 25 things to do in retirement. 25 helps to make it the best life ever. Keep looking for that. I can't wait until that begins. As I said before, if you haven't subscribed, do so now. Don't forget to give me a thumbs up so that I know that you like this video, and share this. There may be somebody in your life who needs some guidance when it comes to finding some professional help in therapy or in coaching, and this would be a helpful video for them. Have a great one.